Good morning, صباح الخير and dobro utra.
Sabah
Welcome.
al-Noor. What's Dober in Russian?
Dobro utra is Russian.
Okay.
Yeah, for good morning. I just thought I would spice it up a little this morning.
Why not? Yeah.
Welcome to another episode of Smashi Business. I'm Lubna Hamdan.
And I'm Richard Fitzgerald.
Boeing's management is seeing a major shakeup, and it's about time. Saudi's private sector has added 1.1 million jobs, but there's an interesting point there that we're going to discuss today, and it has to do with women. The EU has enforced the toughest AI regulations in the world. Is that an opportunity for Abu Dhabi to bring them in? And then shares of Arab news owner have hit a record high. Another media story for us today.
Yeah. There's been a few, which is great. Okay. How are you, Lubna? All good?
I'm good. I'm okay. Just dealing with the challenges of being an Arab woman, Richards.
What are the challenges of being an Arab woman? Are you a victim of the world?
Everything is hard. I often wonder, like, is it easier being a man or a woman? Because men normally, you guys just have to worry about work and making enough money, right? We have to worry about that today and more, much more.
Do you often worry? You started out by saying you often wonder, which is do you actually often wonder, or do you just get on with it?
I do.
There's not much you can do about it. Well, you could do something about it, but like, there's not really realistically a lot you can do about it.
No, there isn't, unfortunately. I love that you just just threw that reality in my face.
I don't mean that there's anything wrong with it. I'm like, do you wonder about it? Because you know what, right? Like, I love seeing, like we talked about, female entrepreneurs. I love seeing people battle against odds. I love a good underdog story. I love society changing. I love behavior stuff. But also at the same time, like, I don't dwell on, unless it's like, I don't dwell on gender things too much. Like, I think they're human issues, right? I don't overplay it too much. And maybe, you know,
because you didn't have to, I guess. Right?
Yeah, well, maybe this is the point, right?
And it's fine,
maybe,
like, you know.
Maybe it is. Like, but I'm not dismissing it. It's like, why didn't we create a gender media brand? You know, like, you know, there's some great female media brands. There's Lad Bible in the UK or whatever, a male one. Like, there's gender media brands. Like, why didn't we cater to? And we didn't, because we just look at males and females in the same way. Like, why can't both male and female enjoy a movie in the cinema the same way? You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, do you really struggle with being an Arab female?
I do, Richard, in every aspect possible, to be honest with you.
Okay.
You know what? There's a Kuwaiti businesswoman who came out a couple of years ago, and she said, what is the point of having the men around anymore if we have to work just as much now? Like, yes, we wanted the opportunities. However, it doesn't mean that, you know, we don't want also the option of just chilling at home. Having said that, I would never want to just chill at home. So
I was at a suhoor last night, and it just, you know, I think with Ramadan, changing topic a little bit, but with Ramadan, I think you really have to adjust. Like, I'm struggling with it this week because there's too many things at both end of my calendar, right? There's too many things at 5 or 6 a.m.
Right.
and too many things at 1 or 2 a.m. Like, we're going to a couple of things this week. But I went to the TikTok suhoor in Armani Hotel. And you know what's really nice about TikTok is, you know, they're being banned in the US, right? Like, which is hilarious. It's hilarious seeing the US deal with something like this, because
it is.
In the last 20 years, platforms have been banned in countries. They come and go, right? Like, YouTube is banned here. It's not. It is. It isn't. Like, TikTok's at the moment for the last 18 months banned in Jordan. No one really seems to care. They're on VPNs. It's banned in India. It'll be off. Like, people in other countries deal with things. As soon as something happens, precious US, it's like, ooh, and then it's like, then it's like, you know, just ban it. Who cares? Like, people are going to use it anyway because they'll find workarounds. And what I don't like about the ban is, like, I don't want them to steal the money from TikTok. I don't want them to buy it from them. Ban it, fine. You know,
that's what they want, though, right?
Of course. But you know, when they ban it, you know who's going to lose out? Like, oh, TikTok is bad. No, like, it's not. Like, it's youth entertainment. It's culture. Like, stop being negative, right?
Yeah.
Like, the only society that's going to lose out is the US. Just like if Pakistan bans YouTube, like, you're missing out evolution of media. Like,
Definitely.
You think you're controlling something, but actually, long term, deal with it, because it's going to be there, you know?
Yeah,
anyway,
absolutely.
The reason I brought it up is because they had so many good creators from all around the world in Armani Hotel last night. And I was at another kind of iftar last week with the tech division of ByteDance, and they told me that Lubna, like these tech companies, the Silicon Valley tech companies, when they came to the region, they had a playbook. So whether it was LinkedIn, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, right, and other ones, some of them did little partnerships on sales first, but ultimately they served the whole region out of a Dubai office. Netflix don't even have a Middle East office; they're in Amsterdam. But so they served it out of the Dubai office. Now TikTok are in Silicon Valley, so they rip up the playbook. They have an office in Riyadh, they have an office in Lagos,
I love
they have
that.
an office in Cairo,
Yeah.
and they embed themselves in the local factor. And when you go to a TikTok event, it's full of TikTokers. And when you go to a Meta event or a YouTube event or a Twitter event in the past, it's full of expat salespeople.
Yeah.
But like literally, like the vibe last night was amazing. Like there was that German guy, Noel Robinson, the guy with the afro.
Right.
He was doing this little dance and like
outside the Dubai Mall as well. He was there the other day. That was hilarious. Yeah.
And like basically you felt like these are TikTokers at a TikTok event. These are actual users, And I'm not a big TikTok user.
Yeah.
And on the way in and downstairs, they're like, "What's your TikTok username?" And it caught me off guard.
No way.
TikTok is the only.
You don't have a TikTok?
I do.
Okay.
But it's the only platform that I couldn't get my Fitzy Richard username that I have on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Like I have a really long one, Richard Fitzgerald 2 or whatever. Yeah. But it caught me off guard because I don't really use it.
Yeah.
But anyway,
that's exciting though. We'll talk about TikTok a little bit later on. But I feel like it's such a fun platform, very Gen Z, very, very refreshing. Anyway, you mentioned control, and Boeing is taking back control of its management. It's about time. For the past 5 years, they've had a lot of safety issues. They've had
fatal crashes of the 737 MAX, safety issues, financial losses.
Yeah, exactly. $31 billion in losses. That's a lot. So Boeing's CEO, Dave Calhoun, will leave by the end of the year. Boeing's chairman, Larry Kellner, will also leave. And the head of commercial airline unit, Stan Deal, is retiring, will be replaced by Boeing COO, Stephanie Pope, effective immediately. Calhoun on Monday, to a letter to Boeing employees, said that the Alaska Airlines incident was a watershed moment. He said, the eyes of the world are on us. We're going to fix what isn't working, and we're going to get our company back on track towards recovery and stability. It's about time for Boeing to do this. But can they save themselves? I think, considering it's only Boeing and Airbus in competition, I think
they'll be fine. I mean, like it's scary, isn't it? When you see parts of planes falling off and stuff, like and all the memes and stuff.
I saw a meme the other day that said, it's no longer cringe to clap once a Boeing airline lands.
Yeah, those cringe claps, love it. Boeing's presence in the Middle East includes offices in key locations like Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Kuwait, and Riyadh, with plans to establish headquarters in Riyadh under new government regulations. Like, it's not an insignificant market. If you think of the story we had last week about Saudi going under PIF, like
and Riyadh
Air. We obviously, the heads of Emirates and Qatar Airways have spoken on this topic for Boeing to up their game in the last 18 months. So leadership change is clearly needed.
Yeah, the Ryanair CEO called it a shit show.
Good old Michael O'Leary, yeah, fascinating. So changes at the top for Boeing. Good to see, hopefully they can turn it around. Yeah,
I mean, it's the least that they can do. It's people's lives are at stake. Saudi's private sector, it's added 1.1 million jobs. In 2023, an 11.5% rise compared to 2022. It said that 1 million workers joined the business sphere, with women making up 37% of the total. That was a really interesting stat, I thought. And between 2019 and the end of 2020, the number of Saudi females in the labor market grew by 64%.
You know what? I think Saudi is an example of where consultants work and strategies work, because the Vision 2030 is working. When they come out and they say, here are the milestones, and you look at the PR, but from 2016, when they put these plans in place, those numbers were tiny. Of the 30-something million people, there were only 5.5 million Saudis at work. And these numbers keep jumping, because all the initiatives are there. Like, Lubna, we received funding from the Ignite program, a content program that will percentage-wise, give us millions of riyals over 6 years. And I was with the MISA, the Ministry of Investment in Saudi Arabia, and they said the reason why we're putting this money in is because we want content jobs. Say content jobs might pay 5 times more than barista jobs, right? Like, and we're talking about esports, we're talking about like entertainment, marketing services and stuff like that.
Right.
And they want Saudi nationals in this. There's now 2.3 million Saudi nationals in the private sector, right? It's really working over there.
It's really working, and I love the part about the stats of women increasing.
Yeah.
When I went to Riyadh a couple of years ago with the UN back then, and it's funny because we were told at the time to just go and mingle. It was one of the first mixed, men and women big events in Riyadh at the time. It was before, it really opened up, and the men were I remember trying to give my business card to some of the men there, and they were extremely, shy, didn't want to interact, were kind of perhaps afraid of interacting. It was very strange at the time. The women, on the other hand, were just interacting with everyone, really pushing their businesses out there, really being very kind of active and fearless.
Yeah.
And going back to the point about Arab women, like we've really had to fight for everything. We've had to, I had to fight for my right to work. Seriously, when I was young, my dad just said, "You know what? It's fine. I'll give you like some extra money so you don't have to work there or whatever."
But he did.
I was like, "Well, that's not the point, is it?"
But he put you through university and whatever. I mean, he believes in you. You were bright.
Of course,
You're always going to work.
Of course,
Yeah.
but the contradictions are big in the Arab world. That's what we struggle with. It's like, yeah, I want to put you through education, but
so okay,
you have to work.
So if you were never in the Arab world and you heard that the stereotypes that Arab females are suppressed, do you think it's true?
I don't think Arab females are suppressed, but
so what's the contradiction? Because I'm trying to understand this. Because on one level you're saying that like the Arab females in Saudi are progressive.
Yeah.
Like the stat here is that the Vision 2030 wanted to get female participation in the workforce at 30%. In the second quarter of 2022, the participation rate was 35.6%, and it's only going up. Like it's fascinating. They're all like there's no suppression. They're at work, right?
Yeah, sure. But however, I mean, they've had to fight for it as well, right? It's not just that the doors are opening, you know.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
For example, right? I'm a young guy, and I'm in the workforce, and I want a promotion, and my boss I don't think is as good as me, and they shout at me and they hold me down, right? If I was a female, I could say it's because I'm a female. But it's not. Like, I literally love that. I was bullied in the workforce by 2 female bosses when I was 23, 24 in Ireland. Like, bullied.
Bullied how? Because I was bullied by a female before as well.
Yeah, but so I wouldn't say it was male. Or, like I said, an example is female, but like, I don't think it's male or female. Like, I was just had a meeting this morning with someone who works in NEOM, and they described a situation where someone's shouting in their face and spitting or whatever. Like if that's a female, you'll say it's because it's a guy and I'm trying to climb up and I can't because someone's on top of me or whatever in the hierarchical structure of the workforce. But like I'm just saying that guys experience that too. It's not a gender thing.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just a life thing. It's just a work thing. No.
I don't know. I do feel like females have to work much harder to get respect in the workplace. I mean, when it comes to pay, for example, I remember when I was at Arabian Business, I'm pretty sure the lowest paid editor in the history of Arabian. I was paid the same.
You were the youngest.
The youngest. I was still doing the work. I was bringing in all the exclusive, but I was paid the same as the senior reporter whose work I was editing the entire time.
Yeah, so this is the thing, right? When I hear stories like that, I say that like you need companies with their own remuneration brackets and salaries and policies.
Absolutely.
Like Boeing, like in companies in the US, they wouldn't say, okay, what's the salary bracket in the market? Like in Dubai, we talk about the market brackets. That's not how to run a business.
Sure.
To run a business, you have to go, well, what's my policy? How am I fair to this?
Sure.
Like if the market average says that a male gets more than a female, do you copy that? No, you don't. Like, you look at what's right within your structure. Like, it's April, and we really usually don't do increments like as a policy across the business to be able to build in the future and budget plan in January and July, right? But in Egypt, there was a devaluation, the third or fourth one in the last 2 or 3 years. And the value of the dollar to the Egyptian pound officially went from 30 to 60, right?
Right.
So the take-home salary of our 30-something, 40 employees in Augustus Mus is halved. Their dollar amount is half. And they're planning summer trips, and the purchasing power disappears, right?
Right.
So what we decided to do is, they're telling me, hey, the market is this, the market is this. I'm cool. Like, what can we afford? So we redid our brackets, and never once, ever do we look at male or female.
That's great. That's not the norm, though.
But that's what I mean. But like good governance, like if we talk about ESG and corporate governance, like good governance would have a salary bracket. This is why, like, a lot of the diversity, equity, and inclusion departments and the ratios and the criteria around the world, like a lot of those departments have fallen away, because the quotas, like, okay, we talk about Saudization and things like that, and that works, but sometimes quotas is forced, and sometimes quotas would make them, say the quota says, say in 10 years' time, 80% women get 10 times more than men, right?
Yeah.
And you'd be like, yeah, well, obviously we deserve it now because you had it for 1,000 years. But actually, that's not fair.
I wouldn't say that. Yeah, that's not fair either. I wouldn't say that. But I think
yeah, you would.
not. No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. You know what? If you've heard some of my podcasts before, like I have repeatedly said, I do think it should be fair game. And I, you know what? Like with women though, it's like we're expected to be soft but tough at the same time. Like we do also have to be really tough in the workplace. I had an issue with one of the biggest companies here, and I had to sit in a boardroom with 3 men in suits and 2 men in kanduras, and I had to sit there and try really hard not to cry and not to show any weakness and I was just bombarded with abuse, basically.
That's not cool. That's not
right?
okay.
That's not okay, but you have to do that, right? Because you want to kind of level the playing field, and you have to be tough as well, right?
I could say the same thing about guys, like that we have to be tough, but we have to be empathetic as well. Like I think you shouldn't have to be tough. Male or female, you shouldn't have to be tough. Like, you be professional rather than hard or soft. Just professional.
Right.
Treat people with respect.
I don't know, Richard. Like, it's a tough world out there. I feel like we do have to be tough. Like both genders, it's tough for both genders. I'm not saying it's.
I'm just saying, if you're listening to this show in the
men.
US, as we know 1 or 2 people do, and you hear this,
1 or 2 people.
Yeah, one or two people do. But if you hear this, hi William. If you hear this and like you would say, oh, what's the Middle East like for females? But what we're trying to do.
Yeah, hi William. It's not easy for us, William.
So so basically, like these statistics, we're just trying to add analysis and flavor around 35% of the Saudi female workforce.
Yeah.
Lumna, we've had an office in Riyadh since 2017, right? And it's mixed. There was never partitions, and there are times when young Saudi females come in, and they're fine with the mixedness, but sometimes their parents will say, "Oh, is that a mixed office?"
Thank you. Exactly. Because you have to deal with the home environment as well. Like I remember speaking to this Emirati woman, and she had reached a really high level. She said, I still had to, up until a couple months back, to ask for my parents' permission to stay out late. Yeah, crazy. Woman in her 30s, right?
And just like a couple of years ago, single guys weren't allowed to walk through a mall. They have to climb on top of it or walk around it at the weekend or whatever. Like things are changing. But what I'm saying is like, now, the young Saudi females that we hire, the 40,000 graduates every year from Princess Noor University, because of the Ignite program, the government are helping us hire these people and giving us subsidies for training, and that subsidies at a small level increases this percentage from 35.6 in 2022 to the percentage that you read out. Like, this is the reality, right? The 26 desks that we have in Riyadh, this money that they're giving us to help build studios. Like, there was a young girl who joined our team, Haraya, 18 months ago. She was the first female in her family to have a job. Loving that she went home in the evening and they had a cake for her, like it was her birthday. And then some of the...
That's amazing.
It's amazing.
That's amazing.
And then a few months in, there'll be a fight and she'll resign and I'm kind of like, calm. And now she's still with us and she grows through it. You know, but you have to sort of like... It is changing. Like, it really is. And you have to stay like, kind of going like, you know, you have to work through it and go, sure, there's going to be times where there's other people in the office that she feels like spoke in the wrong way. And then you have to say, well, yeah, that person's wrong, but let's not panic here. What are we trying to do? You want a career. We want to create jobs. So let's work together, you know? And then it happens. And then she becomes a leader. And the next intern or graduate that comes in, she starts managing them, and then it grows like that. It's amazing.
Absolutely. No, it is amazing. It is amazing. And I think when the leadership is, I'm about to say something that William is not going to like. William is Richard's brother, by the way. People are listening and they're wondering who William is.
Yeah, William has a comms activist agency in San Francisco called the Working Agency. They do amazing work for the unprivileged, and you know, they tackle a lot of issues that the US is facing. A lot of non-for-profits in the US, so well done to the Worker Agency.
Amazing, well done. But what I'm about to say is, tough leadership does work. Sometimes you have to lead with, I'm not going to say an iron fist. However, sometimes the people need, you know, that push, right? Anyways, just messing a little bit with Will. Moving on, shall we move on? The EU has enforced it is about to enforce the toughest AI regulations in the world. What does that mean for Abu Dhabi? First of all, let's go ahead and explain to someone to people, that this doesn't just affect companies in the EU. It actually affects any companies selling to any EU member states, so any of the 27 member states, not just companies based there. If you run a business that operates in Europe or sells to European customers, this affects you. Obviously, we've talked about this before, the dangers of AI, the importance of setting boundaries for and regulations for these companies. However, we've seen it happen to crypto companies before. And here's an interesting stat for you. Crypto companies have been coming, because of stricter regulations in the US, they have been coming to the UAE. And I'm guessing the same thing is going to happen to AI companies. An interesting stat, the number of AI companies registered in Abu Dhabi grew at an annual rate of 67% between 2021 and 2023.
21-23, interesting. The UAE's AI Act, it's called, it's a groundbreaking legal framework and ensures safety, transparency and ethical use. It establishes rules based on the risk posed by AI applications with specific obligations for high-risk AI systems. It prohibits certain AI practices, requires compliance assessments before AI systems are deployed. It is regulation. EU are kind of come out in front on some of this stuff. They did GDPR about privacy and data, cookie-based internet, protecting individuals and users. Right. They fine a lot of people all the time. So the EU is heavily regulated. I think we thought that GDPR was going to come in here, and it hasn't as much. I think one of the ways that Abu Dhabi and UAE regulates AI is like the statistic that you just said. They do it up front. They create an activity and they create a free zone and a framework around the business practices of that category. Whereas I think the EU is doing it a bit different.
Yeah.
We don't, it's very hard to draw comparisons with the EU in this region because we don't have, the Arab League doesn't exist in the same way that the European Union does.
Sure.
And we don't have pan-Arab regulation at this level. We don't have a common currency. We just don't have this. And I think there's a lot of benefits of the EU. You know, Ireland joined the EU in 1973. And the reality is that Ireland was a backwater country with economic problems up until the late 80s, and because of the EU and the import and export tariffs being removed, it made flow of trade and the ability to work as a business across Europe really easy.
Right.
It meant travel was a lot easier, tourism a lot easier, and there was a whole debate for years about Brexit, about leaving the EU. So as I could say I'm an economist, but like from studying economics, like you can't help but see the benefit of cross-border trade. Like the more that the GCC or the Arab League countries have trading agreements, MOUs, or a common currency, or something like the EU, that's really good for the economy. It's really good for transport of labor. It's really good for everything. Where it can get tricky, I think, is regulation. I think sometimes, personally, the EU stifles competition. I think some of these regulations slow things down.
Absolutely, and we're seeing that in the EU, aren't we?
Yeah.
So I think, we're running short on time, so we're going to move on to the next story. Shares of the owner of Arab News hit a record high. So the share price of the Saudi Research and Media Group, it's a big news giant. They own Ash-Sharq, it's a collaboration with Bloomberg, of course. Arab News, as we mentioned, Sayyidati, the women-oriented magazine, and Tamania as well, or Thamania. So it surged by almost 10%, 9.96% on Sunday, reaching a historic high, $89.48. That's 335.60 Saudi riyals. Since its debut on Tadawul. Interesting. It was listed in 2006 at a base price of 95 Saudi riyals, which is $25.33.
Yeah. Do you know what's interesting about that is Faraz, the guy who runs Baraka, he told me that their trading app and many other things in the content platform, a really good newsletter, Baraka, is that how you've been answered?
Baraka, yes.
Yeah. So he was saying like the history of trading in Saudi is very much retail. Like a lot of individual Saudis trade on the stock market and things like that, through their brokers and through their banks. There's a long history of it there. So it is quite a liquid market. And SRMG, I think I remember seeing their revenue. Like they own a lot of different things. You mentioned some of them. They own a lot of out of home, a lot of cinema and things like that.
Yeah.
They bring in over $500 million in revenue. They have a female CEO. They host a lot of events in Cannes. They've invested a lot. They've an investment group as well.
Yeah.
And they compete now with like SMC, Saudi Media Company, but also with NBC, who we talked about yesterday on the show. And NBC recently went on the stock market, so it's getting nice, healthy competition over there. But yeah, I'm trying to sort of figure out like why the share price has gone to an all-time high. But it is interesting that there is that the Saudi stock market. There was a story last week that the Saudi stock market is performing really well at the moment.
Any ideas why the share price? I mean, you had an idea about Anghami the other day. I'm just wondering if
I read their annual report for 2022, and I was surprised with how many ventures they have. I must look into this more, like, because for me, what SRMG are doing at the moment isn't profitable. Like they're investing in grassroots a little bit more. They're investing in bringing in Billboard magazine. They're bringing in expats from Dubai. They're building out their team. They do discovery, a shark discovery.
Why don't you think it's profitable? I mean, in Saudi, there's still a lot of potential there, still for these media companies, right?
Well,
the market is not as mature as here.
No, so think of SRMG. They were traditionally magazines, like the Arab News in 1975, Asharq Al Aswad, even Sayyidi does really well, but like their magazines on websites,
Right, okay.
Their entrance into TV was a little bit later with Bloomberg, Asharq, and things like that. They have the license for the independent newspaper, but the print industry is leaving. The websites are even changing, and the revenue there. So SRMG outsourced their sales to Saudi Media Company last year, and there was a criteria that they had to hit to meet the terms of the deal, and they didn't hit it because the money isn't going there. I was with the head of trading, Lubna, of a media agency, big group last week, and I asked them, where's the money going? And they said it's all in social media.
Right.
Like it's not going to CTV, it's not going to audio or radio. Like when Asharq bought Tamania, they bought them at a very high multiple, right? Their Riyadh's revenue versus what they sold for was like 15 times, but they have Finjan, they have the biggest Arabic shows and they do the best documentaries, but they're not making money from it. And now Tamania, to kind of have repositioned them as a tech media company. They launched an audio app a few months ago. This week we did a story on Smashi Business that they've launched a licensing thing for publishers to get other publishers to sign up. But inherently they're a content company who do great documentaries. And this media tech play, Washington Post, who was owned by Jeff Bezos, they tried to do something before. They had ARC Publishing CMS, and Comcast have tried to do licensing software as well. So some media companies, to complement or supplement the revenue for lack of advertising revenue coming in, they try and have these different revenue streams. So that's what I mean. So SRMG are investing in all these things, but I don't think it's fully taken off yet. And that's why I think, even I was surprised with how well NBC did in the stock market when they launched, I think, in the 4th of Jan, because the share price went up like 100% or so, maybe not that much, but yeah, because they don't pay dividends, they're investing. It's like when we looked at the share prices since the IPOs in Dubai.
Right, yeah.
The ones under the RTA have done really well, but the ones in Abu Dhabi, like Etisalat and are investing a lot. So when you invest a lot, you have less dividends and less profits.
Of course,
like they're doing loads of acquisitions with Stars Play, with El Grosser, with all these sort of things. So that's why I was a little bit surprised that SRMG is doing well. But to me, it points to the fact that the overall halo effect of the Tadawul is quite liquid and doing quite well.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I would love to talk about this more, but we have run out of time. I was going to ask
you can't bring up media stuff with me.
I mean, I was going to ask how Lovin and Augustus is doing in Saudi, but I guess people are just going to have to wait for the.
Well, no, they can go
episode.
on the weareaugustus.com website. We produced a very detailed 2023 report, and you can see the breakdown in revenue between UAE and KSA. Of the $10 million in revenue last year, gross revenue, the majority, about 80%, comes from the UAE. So Saudi is only about $1 million in revenue, even though we've been there 7 years come September. So it's a growing one, but I mean, it's a slow burner.
Slow burner, yeah?
Yeah. It backs up my point that media is a hard space, and well done to those who are doing well in it. Yeah.
I mean, I think we're doing well, right? We went from 11K to now, almost 24K?
On Smashi Business, on
Smashi
followers
Business,
on
Instagram.
Yeah.
All organic.
Yeah.
We're doing pretty well. everyone is talking about the show.
Yeah. Yeah, Smashi Business is doing well.
7,000 listeners per episode. Show me the money. Yes.
No.
We're all about capitalism here.
Yeah.
William.
And quality content. Love that. So,
William's going to stop listening to the show. Yeah.
But I think you've hit the nail on the head, is that if you can provide value, then like SRMG, there are ways to monetize in media.
Absolutely. And we're going to continue doing that with this show and on our Instagram. Listen to us in podcast form on Apple and Rami or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Or if you'd like the video version of this to see myself and Richard, stream us on smashi.tv and check out our shorts on YouTube. And see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.